Hey everybody, my name's Kyle, and this is the Untypical Heroes! I'm excited! Last time, Andi led the group in a charge, an all-out onslaught in Area 30 against the Toon squad. This was the holding area for all the new Toons that they're being held captive. And even though Sir Camisiporus Lasoniana wanted the party to plan, and he's been trying to do this over and over again, and they just will not cooperate, Andi just ran headfirst into the enemy territory. She had her piccolo out and she was blasting it. Dance with a sugar plum fairy and just causing all different kinds of mayhem. Gary was getting busy on the pointy end of his stick, taking out some of these members. Mibbs was launching marbles, and there he is. Superdoo is punching these Toon Squad members square in the face, and Sir Camisiporus Lasoniana ended the fray with 2 shots, 1 intentional, of his blasting ring that he just found, launching fireballs everywhere. Zirand, their elf mage friend, took the freed Toons back to Toon Square, and he said that they were going to put an end to this Toon Squad once and for all, make sure everybody knew the horrors that they were committing. And then Mibbs said, we need to get his prime rod while we move towards the rift and put an end to this whole thing once and for all. So that's where we're at. They took, I'm going to say they took a hostage, a single Toon Squad member hostage, because they're going to need help finding this rift. Now, they know that above them, they have a pipe line that they can follow that they believe is leading to the rift. That's where the lunium that's being drained from individuals, I'll put him right there, is leading. But they're going to need someone to help navigate as well. So they take one of these Toon Squad members. They tie up his wrists with some rope. Who's got rope? Gary has 50 feet of rope. So they take a bit of that 50 feet and they tie up one of these members. And then they make their way back into Area 29, kind of like the prison area where the zombie Toons that are drained of their lumium being held. And they get to Area 28. It's a big iron door, 10 by 10 foot door that's pretty thick. They spin the wheel and then cautiously open it. Now, I don't think it would make sense for Redbeck to just be sitting here waiting forever for the party to get back. He does have a shop that he needs to run. So I think Redbeck would have made his way back to his shop angrily, right? He doesn't like being cheated, and he's definitely not going to forget about that. But I do think he would leave a couple of goblin scouts here. So around this corner, I'm going to say that there's a pair of goblin scouts that were instructed to just like, hey, if you see this party come back through this way, sound the alarm, let us know. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So the party opens this door, it creaks open. Glow Frog Lantern is running. We're at, right now, we were at 13 turns in this dungeon. We were at 13 turns in this dungeon. Even though we didn't need it in Area 30, I'm going to say that was definitely another turn. And we'll say we took another turn to get back into this room. So now we're at 15. We're about halfway through this 36-turn Glow Frog Lantern light. But the Glow Frog Lantern illuminates this hallway to about 40-ish feet. Can they see these 2 goblin scouts? Let's find out. So this looks like a call to the void. We're going to use our odds chart here and see. I'm going to say the goblin scouts were picked because they are good at what they do. They are sneaky. So I'm going to say, is there a small chance or is it unlikely that they're going to see them? I'm going to say it's unlikely. So on a 76 or higher, I'm going to say they do see them on a 76 or higher. Anything under a 76, they are not going to see them. So here we go, and here we go. And we got a 38, right? That's a 3 and an 8. We got a 38. So they do not see them. The Goblin Scouts did exactly what they were supposed to do. They recognize the party, and then they book, right? They hightail it back through this area, and they're going to tell Redbeck what they saw. Hey, the party's coming out. Now they move north, right? Again, we can travel about 40 feet per turn. So we're traveling north. It's going to take us about 2 turns or so to get back cautiously to Are we moving cautiously? I don't think we are. I think we're going to be moving pretty fast. I think we're going to be making some noise. So it's going to take less than a turn to get to Area 27, and then we'll still be able to explore while we're there. So Chamaecyparis lawsoniana knows that they are going to be they're going to be time pressed right now. They need to get to this rift, and they need to do it fast for three reasons, right? One, obviously, is because they have to do the mission, right? Toons are dying because of the Lunium being drained from the world. Two, they know that they're going to be being hunted by Redbeck potentially, and Sir Chamaecyparis lawsoniana tells the party that, like, we don't know what's lying ahead. We don't know if they set traps or ambushes or whatever. We need to go fast. And three, there's going to be another van coming at some point with more new Toons to Area 30. And when they see that the Toon squad has been obliterated there and all of the Toons have been freed, everything is going to be breaking loose. The dams are going to be coming undone. So Sir Chamaecyparis lawsoniana is pushing the party now at a rapid pace. Okay, so we'll say it takes them a turn to get in here and to interact with room 27, because Andi bolts forward and says, I have to check on Old Man Kyllins, right? When they came through this area earlier, there was a big ruckus, and sure enough, there was. The computer's completely smashed. The filing cabinets are destroyed. There's paper strewn about everywhere. The walls are broken. Some of the stalactites from the ceiling broke. The pipe that burst earlier is continuously leaking this syrupy, rainbow kind of colored fluid. And the dais that was in the middle of the room has been smashed to pieces, and the table that housed Old Man Kyllins was thrown to the side. So Old Man Kyllins, right, is still strapped to that table, but the table is up on its side and it's upheaved and it's tossed into the corner of the room. Andi runs over and she says, I can't leave him like this. She says, Superdoo, can you get him out? Superdoo, where is he? Right there. There's our party. Superdoo goes to work on snapping off the wrist and ankle bracelets that were holding him to the table. So Chamaecyparis lawsoniana says, fine, take them, but we got to go. Gary recognizes that the vat that Superdoo used to prop up against the door has been shattered and off in the corner. And he says, I wonder if on the other end of these pipes, there's more of these large vats. This one was empty, but do you think it's possible that they're filling these things up? And the party says, it's likely, it could be. And so he grabs a smashed piece, curved smashed piece of this vat. He picks it up and he goes over to the pipe where the colorful liquid is draining out. He scoops some of it up. The party's like, what are you guys doing? Superdoo picks up Old Man Kyllins and they grab him and they're getting ready to take him with them. And Gary throws some of this on him, splashes it on Old Man Kyllins. And the party's like, what? And he's like, just, hear me out here. If this is the Lunium, right? This is Lunium made tangible. Like, what if we splash it? And he keeps throwing handfuls of this on Old Man Kyllins. He's like, what if we splash it back on him? What if we put it back in him? So he grabs his mouth, right? And he pours some of it down his gullet. And Andi notices that Old Man Kyllins' wrinkly fingers start to have the bluish kind of color that his furry coat carried before come back to them, right? His fingers start to gain their color slowly, and they start to poof back up and get fuzzy and furry again. She's like, oh my goodness, it's working. And Gary's, like, oh, okay, I did it. So Chamaecyparis lawsoniana says, that's great, grab a bunch of that, let's go. So Gary scoops up as much as he can. He throws some more on Old Man Kyllins. Superdoo's carrying him with him, and they dart back down the hallway. Andi feels a little bit better about this now. And Sir Chamaecyparis lawsoniana knows, hey, if we get this rift and solve it, figure out what's wrong with it and fix it, we could wind up actually doing this. We could pull this off. We could save people. So they continue down the hallway. We're going to say it's another turn for them to get to Area 35. What is that? Like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 feet. Yeah, we said if we're moving at a fast pace, we could cover 120 feet in a turn. And this is going to be our third turn when we get to Area 35 here. So that's another turn right there. And on the third turn, we're going to check for an encounter again, okay? So they make it to this Area 35 right here. It's a vacant landing, okay? It breaks off into an open passage, and it slopes down back into the waterway. They also see a narrow passageway off to the northwest. First, we roll a die. If we come up with a 1, we have a wandering monster encounter, but we don't. We've got a 5. So we're going to roll on our random event table, and we get another 5, okay? We get an item, okay? Here I have another roll. I said 1d6 plus 1 each turn that we roll on this. It could potentially be a useful item. So on a roll of a 6 or higher, it's going to be a useful item, and it's not, okay? But next time, if we get this event again, we're going to roll on this and add 1 to that roll. So every time we get a higher probability of finding something useful. So we find an item, but it's not useful. What is the item that we find? What is the item that we find on this beach? Well, earlier things were showing up in this river. Debris was showing up in this river. And I'm going to say it's a weapon, right? Andi doesn't have a weapon. There have been other adventurers in here. One of the adventurers that was slain by the water flicks was one of the hirelings, one of Mibbs's hirelings, right? Where's Mibbs? Right, there he is. I'm going to say one of those hirelings had a sword, right? Obviously. Either the individual that was slain by the water flick or the individual that threw his sword over his shoulder. Either way, the sword somehow found its way down here. Maybe a water flick carried it or something like that. And it's washed up on the beach. Andi finds it, she grabs it, she shakes it up, she goes, cool, a sword. And the entire party is against her having this. So they immediately confiscate it from her, right? Superdoo grabs it and he's like, I'll just hold on to that for now. She's angry about that, but understandable. She's a kid and she's been a little bit rebellious as of late. At this landing, the Toon squad member, when they ask him, okay, which way do we go? He says, we can go north. We can follow the water path. If we follow the water all the way down, it's going to lead us to where you guys need to go. Mibbs recognizes this area, though, because he had to come through this area in order to get to Area 43, where we picked up with his adventure. And so he grabs the Toon squad member and he slaps him, and he slaps him, and he slaps him. He just starts smacking him in the face. And he says, you better tell us the right way right now, okay? Party at that, the Toon squad member at that, he says, okay, fine. He's like, there's another way we can get there. We can take the shortcut. And Mibbs says, I like shortcuts. That's good. They put the Toon squad member out in front because they don't trust him. They hold the rope. And he leads them down this narrow passageway into Area 36, the zagging cylindrical tunnel. It's a cylindrical hallway. There's a 5-foot diameter. Now, this is different from the majority of these vaults because most of these vaults have about an arch that is 10 feet tall. It's about half that size. Superdoo is definitely uncomfortable trying to fit through here. Mibbs has to squish down a little bit. Gary has to duck and crouch a little bit to get through because it's not just 5 feet in diameter, this cylindrical hallway. There's also stalactites coming from the ceiling. There's stalagmites from the floor. And then from either side, it seems like all around this cylindrical hallway, there are rocky formations protruding out. Halfway through the tunnel, the Toon squad member darts forward. Okay, he's got a little bit of leeway on this rope, but not much. And the rope pulls taut. We're going to say Superdoo is the one holding him because it makes the most sense to be holding somebody, and he gets jerked a little bit, caught off guard, but he holds on to the Toon squad member. But not for long, because as soon as the Toon squad member darts forward at the middle of this hallway, there's a click noise, and the whole hallway drops down a few feet. When it drops, it immediately violently starts spinning and turning like a big hamster wheel, and the party gets thrown to the side over and over. Superdoo lets go of the rope and just keeps spinning. And we need to face adversity. But first, I'm going to say, because we were caught so much off guard by this, I don't think anyone was expecting something like this. Because they were caught off guard, I'm going to say everyone is going to lose 1 health. Just because. Okay, so these rocks, jutting, they're cutting their head, they're bumping them in the arms. Andi goes down to 3 health. Sir Camisiprus Lawsonian is at 2. Gary goes down to 4. Superdoo goes down to 3. Mibbs goes down to 2. Everybody loses 1 health automatically just from the damage of this trapped hallway. The Toon squad member knew it was here. That's why he darted forward. He wanted to set it off before they had a chance to ask any questions. Now we're going to face adversity. Are they going to be able to avoid an additional damage? Okay, and I'm going to say since Superdoo is the one leading them right now, he's going to be the one to kind of take charge. I'm going to say Superdoo is going to try and brace himself in the party, puts his hand out kind of like a mom does in a car. Every time she hits the brake, she just throws her hand across and thinks that grabbing you by the chest is going to do more than the seatbelt, and it does. But does it in this case? So he's going to use power, right? He's not. He's going to use endurance, okay? Because endurance is what we use for a steady defense, and I think that's what we need right here is a steady defense. So is he going to help the entire party avoid damage here using his endurance? All right, Superdoo. He's got a D6 for his endurance, so let's go ahead and roll that. We get a 2! 2 on a D6 is going to be a weak hit. Now, we are looking kind of rough for wares here. Where are we at right here? Superdoo does have 5 stamina. So let's go down to 4 right here and let's re-roll that because we're looking for a strong hit. And we don't get it. We get a 6. A 6 is going to be a miss on our D6. And that is not looking good right now because a miss in this situation is going to lead us to having another -1 health to everybody. And I think that's what's got to happen right here, okay? So we're going to go down to 2 for Andi. We're going to go down to 1 for Circamicipris lawsoniana, 1 for Mibs. Gary goes down to a 3, and Superdoo goes down to a 2. So we're in dire straits right now. Superdoo tries to grab onto the party members, and the tunnel just starts vibrating even faster and shaking and bouncing up and down now, and the party members are smacking into these rocks, and there's loose stalactites falling off and jumbling through and hitting them at everything. And I think we're not going to risk another roll, because Superdoo does have some Lunium to spend. He's got 4. To face adversity, we got to burn 1 of those Lunium and go down to 3. We're going to get an automatic strong hit. And we get an automatic strong hit. Where are we at right here? Oh, we do have to roll. That sucks too. We get an automatic strong hit. Let's add our +1 stamina, go back up to 5. The party is going to get out of danger, but we do have to roll. That sucks. Okay. We do know the most negative outcome. The most negative outcome was us getting damaged. Does something additional happen, though? I think that might be useful here because they are completely caught unprepared by this tunnel. So let's roll a D100 here. And we got a 17, okay? 17 says what you're doing has an unintended effect. Okay, so what is the unintended effect? Superdoo is trying to save them. Superdoo is trying to save them, but he's also holding a bunch of stuff, right? He's got 2 prime rods that he's holding on to, and he's got a sword that he just picked up. And I'm going to say his sword stabs somebody. An unintended effect, right? He's grabbing the people. He's trying to hold on to the rope. He loses the rope. He's tumbling around. He's putting his hands up. He's trying to do everything that he can possibly do. And then the sword comes free, and he reaches out and grabs the sword. But when he grabs the sword, he holds it steady, and somebody rolls into it. Who rolls into the sword? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 people. Let's just roll a D6, right? Superdoo's going to be a 1. He might stab himself. Let's roll a D6, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start with Superdoo. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5. And then if it's a 6, we'll say nobody gets stabbed. That's not fun, okay? Nobody gets stabbed. Nobody gets stabbed, but Superdoo grabs onto the blade of the sword and he cuts his hand slightly. So we'll say Superdoo takes another damage. He goes down to 1 health. Yeah, that's about right. Doesn't stab anybody, but he cuts himself, and his hand is now maybe not as useful as it was before. So let's say he's got a cut hand, okay? So he's not as good as grabbing things as he was before. Superdoo's able to grab people, and he's able to throw them out of this tunnel, right? He punches really hard through the side of this rock wall, and he's able to kind of grab one of the gear mechanisms, and he holds it. And he holds it with his hurt hand, and he crushes his hand even more. Let's say his hand gets absolutely mauled, okay? It's not a cut hand, it's a crushed hand. I like that even better. Crushed hand. Okay, it was cut, and then it got crushed. His hand is absolutely destroyed now. The bones are cracking and breaking. He's screaming, ah! He's like, I can't hold it. And the whole party has a chance to crawl, very delirious. They are in a rough sort of ways, but they manage to get out of this hallway. When they do, they see the end of the hallway, a ladder kind of shaking back and forth. and they dart down this hallway. So that's going to be another turn for them. Superdoo gets his hand out of there, rolls and tumbles, and barely manages to get his way out of this tumbling hallway. When they make their way to the end of this, just a long, narrow hallway stretch here, they look up and they see a 15-foot vertical shaft with like a trap door type mechanism opened. And they see a couple Toon squad members up there, and they're holding a ladder. They see this individual with his hands tied, kind of struggling to pull himself up, and they're starting to pull the ladder up and get him up here. He's yelling to them, he's shouting, he's like, hurry, hurry. The party's yelling for Superdoo, and Superdoo is lagging behind. He's holding his crushed hand, and the rest of the party is trying to grab this ladder. Toon squad members at the top are throwing things down. They're launching rocks and everything. Party has to face adversity again to not get hit by them. Let's see what they're going to do. We're going to do endurance again. And I'm going to say at this point, it is Hyqueous Vaults that's leading the charge with his endurance. We got a D8. He gets a 5. I think a 4 and a 5. 4 and a 5 is a strong hit. So yes, they are able to. So +1 to his stamina. So Hyqueous Vaults gets +1 to stamina, which is good because he was pretty low. He's leading the charge. They're grabbing onto the ladder. They're tugging it. The Toon squad members are trying to pull it up. And then Mibs comes firing a bunch of marbles. When he takes out one of the guards, they fall the 15 feet, boom, splat onto the ground. As soon as that happens, Gary gets his pointy sword out and holds that person there. Second individual seeing this happen, getting smacked with marbles, he drops the ladder and runs, and the ladder clangs and becomes taut. It's a rope ladder, and it's obviously tied onto something. So Hyqueous Vaults says, we need to go fast, right? At that time, Superdoo gets to the front of the line, and Gary hops in his hands and says, throw me. Superdoo grabs him. He launches him more than halfway up this ladder. He climbs really quickly. Ladder is shaken violently back and forth. He jumps into the room, and he yells for the party to hurry up. The rest of the party starts climbing up the ladder. Gary is going to be fighting off the Toon squad members that are in Area 53. I'm going to say Area 53 is kind of like a rec area for them to be hanging out. And there's going to be a decent number of them up there. We already have the D8 out, so let's go ahead and roll that. And there are 8. There are 8 Toon squad members out there. Now, they're fodder. They're not well trained. They're not well equipped. They have no tactics whatsoever to speak of. They are just a disorganized group of angry individuals. But there are still 8 of them, okay? Can Gary avoid serious harm while the party gets up to him? Let's see if he can avoid danger, right? We're going to face adversity. We're going to do another endurance roll, right? And Gary is going to be at the tail end of this one. Gary's endurance is a D4, hit or miss with this one. And he gets a 4, and that is not good. So we're going to do a stamina for Gary on that one. We're going to use a stamina to re-roll that. Here we go, Gary. And we got another 4, okay? Gary goes down to 2 health. He is exhausted right now, okay? They just had a fight. They just got tumbled through this hallway. He is still delirious. He is still dizzy. And then Superdoo launches him up here. He doesn't even know like how he got into this room. And then he sees 8 swinging arms and swords, and they're throwing rocks at him. And somebody's got a crossbow, and they launch an arrow at him, and he's just getting pummeled and hit in every direction. Gary falls down to one knee, and he's just barely hanging on there. And then the rest of the party comes up. When they get up, we're going to speed through this fight and use a that escalated quickly move. So combat happens in a blur, and we are going to do another endurance roll, okay? Led by Sir Hyqueous Vaults, because Gary needs some help here. Our endurance here is going to be a D8. Where's our D8? Here it is. We got a 6. D8 looks like a weak hit for Sir Hyqueous Vaults. Do we want to risk... You know what? No, we don't. because Hyqueous Vaults actually has 10 Lunium because his Lunium got doubled before. Let's go down to a 9, 8, 7. So it's going to take 3 Lunium for that escalated quickly, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to go down to 7, and we're going to say that combat happens in a blur. It's a strong hit, plus 2 stamina, and 3 zany gems. Okay? So we got plus 3 zany gems for Hyqueous Vaults leading the charge. There we go. And then plus 2 to our stamina. Now he only has 4 max, so we're going to go up to 4 max. And when that happens, he leads the charge. As soon as they get up, they start swinging swords. They start clanging. They come to Gary's rescue and take out the remaining members of the Toon squad. They slam the trapdoor shut, but not before pulling the ladder up. And they take that rope ladder with them. So they also got a rope ladder. Let's say Gary carries the rope ladder. So he's got a rope ladder. Okay. How big is that rope ladder going to be? This trapdoor is only 15 feet. 15 feet vertically. So I'm going to say it's a 20-foot, a little bit extra, 20-foot rope ladder. Party gets together in area 53, and for the first time in quite a while now, they're able to take a breath, right? And they need it. But not for long, because they still have to get Mibbs's Prime Rod. So I'm going to say at this point, the party is going to take a quick break, okay? They do need a Prime Rod, and then they do need to find this rift. But right now, they are in pretty rough shape. And they hear some noises coming down from the hallway outside the door. If you liked what you saw, then keep liking it, right? Because there's more content coming. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.